it's never the same energy. You got people, talking about Bill Belichick dating a woman in her 20s. He's 60 or 70 years old. And then you got, people talking about Shannon being 50-some-year-old dating a 19 years old. I mean, you had Hugh Hefner had those allegations. Elvis had those allegations, and they never being brought up. And some people say, well, why it's never the same energy? Or some black people say, why it's never the same energy? And I'm gonna keep it short, simple, and sweet. The thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Patreon. It's the only link in the description. The reason why it's never the same energy, y'all, is because black people don't ever keep the same energy. It's not a bunch of white people that I see jumping on Shannon Sharpe or having this conversation about fruitless conversations. They don't have them. Even when Josh Giddey got in trouble and they swept it under the rug when he was allegedly dealing with that teenage girl, it didn't really move black people like that. You had some black people speaking out about how the NBA swept it under the rug, but the masses didn't care. And I said this, and I forget what video I said this in, but I said, most black people mind, it starts and stops in the black community. They don't know much, about politics. They don't know much about what's going on in culture outside of hip-hop, because pop culture now has become hip-hop culture. In my opinion, yeah, you still got your Sabrina Carpenters, but it is pop, like white pop culture ain't as big as it used to be when I was growing up. With TRL and Britney Spears and, Christina Aguilera, and they don't even have boy bands and girl bands no more. The Cheetah Girls, NSYNC, they don't even have those no more. So you got to understand, that was a huge part of white pop culture. The girl and boy bands, they was a huge part of, it made up the nucleus. It wasn't too much, we had some solo acts, but it wasn't too much of the solo acts that made up the pop culture, like I said. But had Michael Jordan that was huge. Michael Jackson that was huge in pop culture too. Not to say it's white people, but basically crossover culture. Now hip hop has become crossover culture. But most people don't know. Most black people don't know nothing outside of that. In America, they don't know nothing outside of that. They don't really know. Like when you talk about something that's as surface as in politics as what Trump want to do with tariffs, all they know is he's causing a problem. He's just doing this to be difficult, but they're not looking at what would be the benefit of him putting tariffs on China. They don't look at it that way. They're perfectly fine with how things were with China taking advantage of America, but America can't take advantage of China the same way. The way they structure, most countries structure, you can't come in there and make a killing and get a slap on the wrist. You got to put skin in the game. But when you have those conversations, even about the presidential election, even with black people, it was surface. It was just abortions. That was what it was about. It didn't get too much deeper than that. When Trump said, I'm going to bring the energy down, it was about drilling, and most people are just superficial when it comes to things outside of the black community. So that's why it's never the same energy. All we know is Diddy. All we know is Shannon. All we know is sports. All we know is just black TV shows and love and hip hop. And that's why I think a lot of people who tend to want to date outside their race in the black community, they have a hard time dating inside their race because there's not much in common. We all understand the sexual fetish. Most people see black people as a fetish, and most black people see other people as a fetish. You might be like, okay, I want to know what it is to be like with an Asian woman. If you're a woman, you might want to be like, what is it like to be it's just curiosity. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, it's just a fucking fetish. Going both ways. But when you figure out it really ain't nothing, we don't really have anything in common, a lot of times it's like they lack the knowledge of what black people got, and you like the knowledge of what they got. But for a long time, the majority of popular culture, the TV shows were centered around white people, and now they're starting to kind of come back towards the black area. But still, it's a huge part. So most people, of course, they don't really care about who the coach of the North Carolina Tar Heel football team is. Most people couldn't tell you who Josh Giddey was, but they can tell you the Roly bitch on Baddies or Love and Hip Hop or whatever. They can tell you who that was. So that's why it's never the same energy, because I think black people don't care because it's not in the black universe. Skip Bayless, got accused of taking the cookies. All of a sudden, that story just died. It just died down. It wasn't even really. It really wasn't even about Skip. It was more about how Joy Taylor told her. It was more on Joy Taylor than it was on Skip, because she brought the girl into the company and she told her just play the game and all that stuff. So when people keep harping on why it's never the same energy, that's why black people don't apply that energy. They don't care. It's not in their universe. It's not in their universe. Me personally about it, if you legal, you legal. If you legal, you legal. And the very same people that's mortified about it was the very same women. A lot of them was the very same women that was, that was lying to guys about their age. They was 16, 17. And they was getting clapped up by grown men. And grown men didn't even know their real age. And I heard the dude on TikTok was like, well, a 19-year-old look like a child. Where the fuck have you been at? It's some 18, 16, 17, 15 year old women that's built better than grown ass women. Let's throw it on the floor. What they put in the milk, some of these women are full figured women in their teenage years. That's the crazy shit about it. Only way you really know that some of these women are teenagers or adolescents, whatever you want to call them, is when you start talking to them and they start talking to them, or their mannerisms, or they real childish. That's how you really, really know. So I don't have an issue with it, because I seen it. I seen these very same women align themselves with these grown ass niggas. They know what they doing. You try to tell them, hey, don't be dealing with this older dude right here. I know what I'm doing. They know what they doing. Let them have it. Let them have it. If they want to date younger, it's legal. Nia Long was in the interview talking about her mother allowed her to date a 30-year-old African, and while she was 16 years old, I think she said. And men, and like I said before, it's a lot of dudes that throw this cape on and try to police what other men do. You know what I'm saying? And then on the other side, you look at women. Women don't police what other women do. I just told you, Nia Long mama, so, basically have her blessings to mess with a dude 14 years older than her. Why are other men really, truly policing dudes and this? Well, you shouldn't do this and all. That's you. But a lot of times we know a lot of them pandering ass niggas, they say that, and they be the very same ones being a fucking pedophile. Real talk, we know it. So I ain't policing what you do. If you 18, you 75, and then that's what you do. Got nothing to do with me. We seen Cormora Lee Simmons and Russell Simmons' daughter, 20 years old with a 70-year-old man. And this is so common in other countries, but that's what you into. That's what you into. Because when Dre Michelle was taking advantage of Jalen Green and used him for a baby, there was some people that raised an antenna. But nobody give a fuck. When Anthony Edwards was going through, that he was 40 years old. He's 22, 23 years old. Nobody bat an eye. Just keeping it a beam, man. But hey, thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. The subscribe button is the bell icon button. Hit the link in the description, join the Patreon. Peace.